Hello and welcome back to Dev Game Club, a weekly podcast in which two veteran game developers look at games from the past to discuss their relevance and impact today. I'm Brett Duville, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, a man who is dealing with the latest in a series of insurmountable personal crises.
Tim Longo. Never truer words.
I tell you, man, all the time with the personal crises. But you're dealing with them.
I am
it's good.
through meditation.
Yes,
mantras.
Right. I was also going to say, and indirect control of your dwarves.
Right, which we have an email that asks about the dwarves.
Indeed, and that is our segue. Before we get started on our new series, I want you to read that email, and then we'll talk about the event that it's about on the other side, I guess.
All right, Defeating Games thanks you from Ryan, aka Biostats. Dev Game Club community. Thank you. This is to you, not from us. Thank you so much for tuning in, rating, and donating this past weekend. The Defeating Games for Charity event raised another $5,580 for the Video Game History Foundation, making it more than $15,000 across the 3 years. Amazing. While we did not quite hit our stretch goals, I'm happy to report that within the event, we raised more than our previous years. It is neat. It is neat. It is neat. It is to see, as neat as it is to see.
There you go.
It continues to expand our community and unites it for a good cause. Thanks to all who streamed and modded.
Yeah, especially. I think it is neat to see. Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't catch that edit for you.
No. That's me. And that is from Ryan. P.S. Tim, how many named dwarves have you killed? And the answer is 0. They are still alive and well.
Nice.
I have a pretty good steady state currently until
disaster
water happens.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I might do some streaming of that. But yes, agree with Biostats /Ryan. Yeah, it was an amazing event. I mean, we're going to segue into maybe talking a little bit more about it, right?
Yeah. Please.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to ask you. You spend a lot more time with it than I typically do. I did drop into a couple of streams. I may catch up with more of them as the VODs become available. I dropped in on Kyle doing Silk Song. Trying to beat his personal best, and I was there for his first the first damage he took, and it was like he just missed a ledge and fell onto a spike, and it was such a nothing. He was so just like, oh, that's so disappointing. And I was like, yeah, I was just about to go out and shovel because of the snow that hit here. One of the reasons I was not on all the streams. And I was like, well, I was going to wish you luck with your hitless run, but then that happened. So good luck.
So you jinxed it is what
happened? No. I didn't say it until after. So I was about to say
your presence.
My presence
did it.
Popped in.
Yeah. I mean, we, I don't want to necessarily go through everybody because we won't have time, but yeah, I mean, for the most part, I enjoy each year. I've enjoyed it. And I try to commit even more, I think, as the 3 years have been going by. So this year, basically, unless I was asleep, I was watching. So because of that, I definitely missed some that I need to go back. For instance, Gray's stream with Kyle doing Hollow Knight bingo, which I don't know what that is, but I need to watch it because that was off while I was sleeping. And I didn't want to watch Silk. I unfortunately won't watch Silk Song because I haven't finished it yet, so that's too spoilery for me.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, just an incredible lineup of streamers. I feel like everyone that I watched, there was something either I was learning from the streamers or the community or the viewers, or just seeing amazing things happen. I mean, we started off with Untitled Goose Game, which was, watching Kaon play that, which I had never played. I knew of it, but I'd never really seen it being played too much. and so that's basically Hitman with a goose. And so that's right up my alley. Noises was like, couldn't understand even what was happening with that. I don't even know what crowd control is even after the fact, but that was amazing. I think, and of course we saw Phil play Myst, the original version, which was I guess emulated maybe, and that was also amazing. I think we saw Robot Spacer do a personal best for Shadowgate at the end there before getting to, or no,
That
that
would have
was
been
after Team
too
Squeeze.
late for me. So
Yeah, no, I don't think you definitely weren't there. But I think he beat his personal best. So I watched that whole thing. Um, and then yeah, missed a series of them after that, unfortunately. And then yeah, and then seeing Unpacking from Kendra, and Splatoon 2 does in fact have a single player mode in which Calamity did the amazing speedrun that he did. We even saw Typing of the Dead. Um, and then Dark Souls 2, which I had just finished actually a few months ago.
oh, okay.
And so it was kind of pretty fresh in my mind, but Nitro, who I think was new to the event, I believe, yeah, doing a speed run, which it's like I spent how many hours?
Yeah.
It's always one of those.
Measuring in
Resident,
hours versus minutes is
yeah,
a big
exactly, yeah,
difference.
but you learn a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't typically
I
look up.
mean, knowledge is the real, currency
Right.
in that game.
Right, exactly. Because yeah, I don't use guides or anything usually, so it's like all of it's new. But we even got some Metal Gear Solid in there, Resident Evil. Yeah, and then I know you were there toward the end of it. To skip ahead, we had some good Lost Lake Minecraft stuff, which was blowing my mind. That Did you see any of the Super Mario Brothers Shuffler from Nerd
I
XD?
did catch just a little bit of it. Yeah,
Oh
I
my
wasn't in
god.
chat, but I did watch a little bit of it.
That is, yeah, that was on a whole nother level. I mean, you basically have to master all those games and
Yeah.
know what you're doing
No
as
thanks.
yeah, as it's swapping
Not
mid
gonna
jump sometimes.
not
Yeah.
gonna be me.
And I think he only had like 25 deaths the whole time or something. So, and he might have gotten pretty close to a personal best too. Yeah, and then of course, yeah, Devil May Cry, and then K-On! Coming home with Mega Man X, including some special secrets in there too. So yeah, like Bio said, they didn't hit maybe their stretch goals, but they bet just as admirable as the previous years, if not more. Yeah, so I don't know, the energy behind it, the sense of community, like Bio said. I think he said it best in the email, but also I think in the Discord, or maybe even on the intro. Artemis does the intro sort of cast, and every year they bring in more people. Like if you look at the Discord chat for that particular channel in the Discord for them organizing it, because you and I had very little to do with it. Um, there's these new people coming in and saying, "Oh, I found this community. This is great. I'm finding all these people that I really like hanging out with." And so I think at the very least, money aside and Video Game History Foundation aside, it feels like that community is just bringing in more great people. So that was really a fun. I just like kind of lurking on the streams and watching all of the nonsense happen.
Yeah. And providing some of your own nonsense. So
Yes,
that
I
was
did dress as a dwarf. Yep,
yeah, yeah.
and I
So
will continue to do so every time.
good.
I might
I
stream. I think
guess.
I'm going to stream Dwarf Fortress tomorrow.
Okay.
Do some more. Because we have now, because we did the naming thing, which for those who didn't know, we did, people who donated got to name dwarves. And those dwarves are, as Bio asked, still alive. And so we now have some personal stake in the fortress, I feel like. And so I now have an obligation to keep them alive. So I think it'd be fun to keep, continue streaming. Though I do have an obligation for a Hitman stream
Yeah.
dressed as a clown. So
Yes, that's true.
I'll do that at
Yeah,
some
I
point.
did. I did get that did get me back into Dwarf Fortress a bit
Hmm.
yesterday. I had to set it aside today because I had to play the game we're playing tonight. So we'll transition to that in a moment. But but it did definitely get the itch going. And I was like, oh man. And I built my first fortress, and it was failing in lots of different ways that I was like, I don't remember this mechanic. How does this mechanic work? And then once I got kind of all of that, I was like, okay, trash all of that. Let's just build a new one. Now that I remember how to play at least the beginning of the game, I will get in there and and start tackling it proper. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good
There's
time.
that. Yeah, there's that first pancake version where you're
Yeah,
relearning
exactly.
everything. You're like,
Yeah.
well, I definitely know this one's not going to work.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's my
Why
education
is everyone
fortress.
so thirsty? And why I can't, what, they're not bringing any wood in. What's going on? So it was
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Little did you know you entombed your fortress like I did, and they couldn't get in or out.
You spend all that time on aesthetics, and that's why that happens to you. And
It's
I
exactly
don't,
what
and that's
happened.
why it doesn't happen to me.
Oh,
So,
it's exactly what happened to me. I was like, oh, I got to make this look better, not even thinking about the repercussions. Yeah. And the other thing to mention that I forgot in my little spiel there was that I wanted to mention is that they had a theme of for the streamers they had a theme of bringing games that mean something to each person, and so that was also obviously I won't go through everybody's, but it was also nice to kind of hear from them, and of course the VODs are going to be on the website, so if people missed it, you can go and you'll be able to catch all of the streams to see. But everybody had something great to say about why they were playing, their particular game. Lost Lake was telling us about a whole nother community about why he was playing that version of Minecraft, which I don't know if you saw any of that, but
I did, yeah, yeah,
holy cow, that thing, the way that when he goes below the ground to show you how it's all working.
yeah, yeah.
So
It's
yeah, it was
wild.
just
It's
nice,
wild
very
what people
personal.
are able to do in that. Well, when you have a Turing complete system inside of a video game, you can do a lot of things with it, as it turns
Yeah,
out.
exactly. Yeah. Yep. Gamers and players and viewers are pretty cool. So yeah, it's a really really special event. So it's really I was very honored to be a small part of it.
All right. Well, another year on the books here, as
Yeah.
we're about 4 weeks as we record this from our 10-year anniversary, and one of the
Okay.
things I think we can be really, you know, take some pride in is our community. Even
Hmm.
though it's something they do, it's
Yeah,
I,
self-managed.
I have nothing to do with it. Other than dropping in on the Discord from time to time. It is a nice it's a nice place to hang out. So
Yeah, and there were some nice words about Belmont as well, who
mm,
was a community member that we lost last year. Who had participated last year in
right,
the event. So,
yeah,
yeah, multiple people had, So that was also, I think, a nice kind of full circle. I think
yeah, yeah,
for everybody. Yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, Defeating Games for Charity 2026 is done. I believe starting tomorrow, they'll be starting to organize for 2027.
I think so. Yes.
Based on what I see, there's a lot of organizing. But I say take a whole weekend, folks. Take some time off.
Take a day.
Take a whole
Yeah.
day. Take a little time. Let us turn now to, as I teased earlier, our new series. We are going back in time. We have actually not played anything from this year in games. We'll get to the year and all that in a minute, because I want to start by talking about our general sort of knowledge about this series or interactions with this series. But we are going to play Ultima IV, which is a little daunting. It was a little daunting to suggest, and so I want to kind of throw over to you first of like, well, what experience do you have with Ultima? What is it? And then I'll give mine as well.
Yeah. So this so 84, yeah, so
This is 85. I have
85.
it. Yeah.
So junior high?
Oh yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Should be. Yeah. It would
So
actually be my first year in high school, actually, for this one. But
yeah. So I think I've talked about this before in some context. Maybe it was Ultima Underworld, but uh, my dad used to work for AT&T at the time, and he brought home, so my gaming platform of choice at that point was actually not a console, even though I had an NES and I had at the time and 2600 before that, etc. But it was a AT&T 6300, I think it was called, which was a an x86 kind of PC,
mhm.
IBM clone. And so I played all my gaming on that, and I played the Ultimas on this. And so my entrance point, because Ultima Underworld comes later, as we've talked about. We have a series about that, so you can go back and listen to that series if you want to hear.
A very different game, it should be noted.
Very different game, very
Yeah.
different game. Yeah, and sort of, we talk a lot about its significance then. But I did play Ultima 3, so the one before the one we're playing here, of course, and Ultima 3 Exodus. And it traumatized me. That's
Wow.
where I want to start. And the
Wow. I
reason the
did not
reason
expect
being,
that. Yeah.
well, so I mean, I was playing a lot of other RPG-ish type things that were available at the time. Bard's Tale, we've talked about Eye of the Beholder as well, which we played on the podcast. So those sorts of games. There were some good kind of sci-fi RPG-ish kind of space exploration games like Sentinel Worlds, which I'd call out around that same time. But Ultima, I don't know what it was. It's sort of an opaque franchise, at least the early games are, and I think we're going to end up talking a lot about that for 4 as well. And I did end up finishing 3, but I kid you not, it took me years
Mhm.
because I would put it down, I would come back to it. I think I probably started it over a couple times, but there's just a lot they don't tell you, and there's a lot of and again in the 80s, right? There's not the internet, so you don't have the readily available searches you can
Right.
do
Yeah,
like you can
if you
now.
get stuck, you're stuck.
Yeah, so it was like a lot of banging your head against the wall for me at least, and it's just they're very big games and very daunting games, and so I was so happy when I finished it. I remember, I don't remember the details, but I remember the feeling, and not even believing it, but it was such a rough process.
Yeah.
I I think it put me off of Ultimate games.
Ultima 3 is pretty. I mean, 4 is also kind of difficult, but in a very different way, I think. But 3 is very difficult because as I played that one, I played that, maybe 10 years ago. Just
Oh
like
yeah,
just kind of like, oh, I want to go back and see some of the early Ultimas, and I played 1, 2, and 3 over the course of a couple of years. I didn't play them kind of constantly. I just sort of like played one,
fully.
yeah, but played them in their entirety, yeah,
Yeah,
and no notes, no internet, just dug
yeah,
in with what I would have had
yeah.
back
That's
then,
impressive, even
and
for an adult.
yeah, but I mean, I get what you're saying is like it's a lot, and it was very challenging, and yeah, sort of decoding the ending in particular, I remember being like, in terms of what you have to do, was like
Oh
really
yeah, I
hard.
mean, I don't
And Ultima
remember.
2, Ultima 2, well, so basically Ultima 3 ends, and so these are the 3 like dark ages, or ages of darkness, I guess they call them.
Right, there's a villain in each one,
There's a
kind of
villain in
thing.
each
Yeah,
one, and it starts with I forget the name of the first one, and then it's like
Mor-
mine
Mordain, or
oh
yeah,
yeah, Mundane, and then like
Mondain,
Mind
Minox,
Minax, and then Exodus is
Exodus.
Ultimate 3. And Exodus is basically a computer. Um, it's sort of like a mainframe, really. At the end, I mean, talk about a game that is describing its own creation.
Oh shoot! You know what? We didn't talk about that as a topic, but we should hopefully the producer can make point of to the meta topic of these games. We should talk
Uh,
about, right?
okay,
The meta experience.
yeah. So one was quite good. It was kind of a mix of overworld, sort of top down, as Ultima 4 presents, but then when you go in a dungeon, it would be first person, like a wizardry, um, in wireframe. It wasn't
And that's this here too, right? Because I haven't
that.
gotten to a dungeon yet, but
I don't remember what the 4 dungeons look like.
okay.
I'm not sure I've gotten that far. because there's so much to do in the overworld.
Yeah, no, I haven't either, but yeah, I
Yeah.
thought, okay. Keep
So I
going.
don't. I honestly don't know, and we'll find out, and that'll be a subsequent episode. My introduction to the series was actually with 6. So,
Oh, okay.
and I was in college by that point because
Mhm.
as I've talked about before, in high school, um, I played a lot in junior high, and then in or middle school, I guess we'd say, and then in high school, I kind of had gotten away from it. I had a lot of other interests I was pursuing, and uh, so just had fallen in with a different crowd of friends and had moved at one point and just like
Fallen in. Wow, just fallen in with a different crowd.
a
Okay.
different crowd. Yeah.
The Magic
And
the Gathering crowd.
no, that's graduate school.
Oh,
That's
okay.
totally different. There was no Magic the Gathering in 1985. But anyway, so I got back into games in college, as I've talked about before, and one of the RPGs I played then was Ultima 6, and I actually played it with a friend to the point
Mm.
where we got to a point where we're like, we just want to plow through this thing, and we went to um yeah, basically a place where one of us worked, where they had pretty good PCs, and just like went constantly through a whole weekend, and we didn't leave. We'd go out and get food from
Wow.
a food truck and come back and eat, and then dive right back in, and just like we were like taking turns sleeping. It was, but
That's so cool.
we got through all of Ultima 6 that way in some weekend. And we had started and done a bunch, but we basically played it that way. So I had fond memories due to that, and I played Ultima 7 as well. Not part 2. I think there might even be a part 3 or a separate thing, another add-on. But I played the first one. I forget the name
This
of it.
series is bonkers in
It is.
general.
And then I have seen 8. When we played Ultima Underworld, somebody sent in and said, you should check out 8. And I checked it out a little bit. I was like, I don't know. And 9 came out while we were at LucasArts. And
Yeah, that's
the
right.
demo was oof. And that spelled the end for Ultima. It
Yeah,
was
they
not.
kind of lost their way. I mean,
Yeah.
after 9 games, I don't know how
Well,
you
I mean, they were also
do
making
it.
the transition to 3D, and
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, they
and
tried to,
they
like a
just
lot of
like a lot of
companies.
series didn't know what to do their game in 3D. You can't ask everybody to be like Super Mario 64, right? To like just figure out how to do
Yeah.
a whole game in 3D. So anyway, and then I decided to go back and play some of the earlier ones a few years ago, like a decade ago, just out of curiosity. And that was kind of after my kind of taking a break, and I was just kind of like, I can play whatever I feel like and really spend a lot of time with it if I want to. And so I did. And I really enjoyed playing those games, although I don't think 2 I think is kind of a mess. Definitely a sophomore slump where you're like,
Mm,
what are you even doing here?
yeah.
A lot of the humor didn't land. It was very sophomoric, in a lot of ways as well. That one didn't hit for me, but 1 and 3, I thought were both quite strong. But 4 is really 4 and Ultima Underworld. I feel like are big tentpole like
Yeah.
gaming
The
classics.
legendary
Yeah,
editions. Yeah. Yeah. And I, I think, I think back to that time. And even when we were just talking about the charity event, and I was mentioning my Dark Souls 2, watching somebody who really knows that game versus my experience. And I only use it as an example of, I often think about why I try not to use the internet very much when I play games. And I do, even though Ultima 3 was traumatizing for me as a teenager, there's still, and Ultima Underworld as well, the same time frame ish. There's just there's something about opening a box, and especially we'll talk about with this game, the materials that come with the box, right? Cloth maps, whatever it is. Even the cover of Ultima 3, I remember, just drawing me in, right? And being so mysterious.
yeah. It had like the
Like
gargoyle thing on it,
yeah,
right?
like a
Yeah,
demon gargoyle thing,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And it just being, it's like it's,
Or maybe it's a Balron.
Yeah, I think it's Balron, right? Those clever
avoiding
naming.
yeah.
Not it's not like anyone would come after them, but
No.
it's like, okay, could have called it a Balrog. But
I
anyway,
also saw they have a gazer instead of a beholder.
now that you can have somebody come after you,
Yeah.
Beholder is copywritten. Yeah,
Yeah.
very ferociously
Yeah.
copywritten, apparently.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So I think sometimes in somewhere in my deep psyche, those experiences back then in the 80s, I'm trying to rekindle that, where you don't have the answer at your fingertips. And it's a little bit like kids these days comment, but
Yeah.
it is really what I mean. It's like people don't, I feel like players these days don't realize sometimes that that was an important part of the game. And as we're starting 4 to bring it back around, I can see, and I'm trying hard. Not There's been a couple of things where I'm like, this should be more easily understood what this S means. And
Right.
you told me what it meant, but I couldn't find it in the literature at all.
Right. Yeah.
Ironically, I looked it up online eventually and also could not find it. So
Yeah.
weird that, yeah. So it's just
Yeah.
the opacity of it is part of the point, right? And I'm going to talk about it when we start talking about our first experiences, but starting a game, just like 3 for me, it is a daunting experience to start an Ultima game, like the core series.
Yeah. 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 This is definitely one of those talk about it on the playground kind of games.
Yeah.
And which is what we had, at the time. I do want to, before we get in deeper, and then I think we'll go straight into the talking about the
Yeah, talk
manuals
about the years.
and all that stuff, is just to set it in its time with 1985. This is the only game so far that we've played from 1985. There are some sort of relevant titles that'll come up as I go through this list that I'll call out. In the arcades, so the arcades were still a huge thing, and I want to mention a few there that were big. Space Harrier was this year. Gauntlet,
Oh,
what a
wow.
game. Ghosts and Goblins, a very difficult
Mhm.
game, definitely a quarter eater. And Gradius, a good shmup. On the console, the NES was starting to break through, and this is the year of Super Mario Brothers. At least in
Oof.
the US, I'm not sure about the date there. But 1985 seems like the date. PCs, on a technicality, Tetris comes out in 1985. It doesn't come to the US until 87, but it was in the USSR on PCs in 1985.
Okay.
Which is just kind of an interesting when you compare all these other games I'm talking about versus Tetris. If you go and look at the original PC version of Tetris, it does not look like you think such a thing would look. It's very like ASCII based, I would say. Anyway, the Bard's Tale, which you've already mentioned, and another
Oh, that
probably
was the same year.
that was the same year. So
Oh,
at some
interesting.
point we may have to bite that one off too. It's in our list.
Yeah.
Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego?
Oh.
Both Spy versus Spy games, which I mentioned because they have some,
Yeah.
they have some interest for us. Oregon Trail is in
Oh. The original
1985.
was
The original
85?
Oregon Trail is 1985.
Okay, that explains it in computer lab in junior high. I
Yeah,
have a vivid Oregon Trail memories for our nerd class
yeah,
that we had for computers. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's funny because I recommended. I mean, I recollected that being earlier, but when I looked it
Yeah,
up, that's what came
I
up.
did too. I was
So
surprised to hear you say that.
yeah. So somebody might write in and correct us on that. And then King's Quest 2, I wanted to mention because we, of course, played King's
Hmm.
Quest some years ago.
Hmm.
Um, on both NES and sometimes in the arcades, there were tons of licensed titles. So I also want to like this had already begun. I mean, some of the movies that had game adaptations are kind of terrifying to think about as I was looking through like the
Hmm.
Goonies and Gremlins, and A View to a Kill, Rambo, Temple of Doom. Although I don't think that one was too bad, but also The Empire Strikes Back had its. I think that was an arcade adaptation in 1985. And then finally, I wanted to mention that this is the year that the Sega Master System came out, which is sort of the parallel to the NES. And I don't think we've ever played a Sega native game. So another thing
No,
we
it's
might have to
a
think about at some point.
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, we need to
think about what that would be. Yeah, it would probably be something on Genesis, but what's that?
We at least have to put Sonic on our list, right?
Do we?
Yes, we at least have to have it there, just so it's there.
Okay, well, it can be on the list. I mean, there's some things on the list I'm like, woof. Maybe we don't ever have to play it, but
It's
anyway,
there. It's too late.
It's there. It's on the list. I'll die before we get through all of that list. I feel like it's already quite a long list. But anyway, okay, so that's 1985. I don't, I'm.
Yeah, no, it's great.
It's hard. It's hard to get good information about 1985 in games, but those are the trends and things.
It's a good. No, that's a good wide, swath of what was going on.
And there were fewer titles. We should also say, when we say PCs, you were playing this on an IBM PC. I would have played Wizardry, and if I had played this at the time, I would have played it on Apple II. And then I wanted to sort of give people a sense of the performance that you were looking at. So when you're playing, if you decide to play along, you can have a sense of like how powerful the computer was. The Apple II, the version that we're playing on GOG is the DOS version, of course.
And there's also a C64 version.
Okay, yeah, there was also a C64. Well, that's the same chipset as the Apple II, I believe. So it is, the Apple II was a 1 megahertz machine. It's an 8-bit machine, so all numbers are 0 to 255. And it let's see, what else did I look up? Oh, the clock rate. So it's 1 megahertz, but like on a modern PC, an ad is a single cycle, and on an Apple II, it's a minimum of 2 cycles. But that's like if you want to add like a number you already have, like a constant. It's more if you want to do ads that are jumping and pulling something from memory and things like that. So it's like depends on where you're pulling information from. And it had the original Apple II had 48K of memory. There was a 64K extension, they called it, or expansion. So it's that's the kind of limitations that we're working with. Your machine was probably a little bit more complicated than that, but not light years more complicated.
Yeah, I don't think it was a 386, but what was the generation before that?
It could have been an 8086 or an XT.
I think it was an 8086. Yeah, the equivalent. Yeah. I'd have to look it up, but
yeah, I mean there was a 286, but the 286 and 386 were more like when I was in college. So yeah, at the time it would have been an 8086. Oh, and the other thing about the Apple II is and the Commodore 64 and other systems, NES, same thing. There were fewer than 60 instructions in the assembly instruction set. And on a IBM PC, there was more like 3,000. It's a much more complicated architecture, the 8086, which is why it became dominant soon thereafter, and why there had to be a new Apple in the Macintosh around that time. So that's why they had to bring in a competitor, because the 6502 was not going to be able to keep up. You're probably talking a 16-bit. I didn't look up the IBM PC, and for resolution it was like 280 by 192, I think, in high res. Was what we were talking about in terms of graphics. So that explains a lot about why the game looks the way it looks.
Yeah, I'll talk about it when we get to the beginning of this game, but the jump from Ultima 3 to 4 from a technology and visual standpoint, especially with sort of the opening sections, and because I think 3 was just a 4-color game, if not monochrome with some colorations of some kind. I don't remember how that worked.
Yeah, I think 4-color is pretty accurate. That sounds right to me.
And I just remember seeing screenshots from 4 and thinking my mind was blown but because of my trauma from 3, I was never going to buy it. I was
Yeah.
like, there's no way in hell.
It's never going to happen. Well, we're finally overcoming that now.
Yeah, I guess so. And it is not a spoiler, but I'm enjoying it.
So we want to get into, while we're also, so I've set kind of the technical specs. There's also kind of, as you mentioned earlier, there's the experience of playing a game at this time, which is you have to read the manual.
Yeah.
These days you get a game, you download a game, there probably isn't a manual. Everything is in the game. Part of that is the technical constraints, right? We've actually talked about games like that. I can't remember now. I feel like maybe Civ 3 had there have been games we played. I'd have to go back and
Oh,
look,
for sure. Yeah.
where
No,
it's
I
like
mean,
go to the manual and do, and go read, what to do to learn how to play the game. The
right.
Sims
Yeah.
might have even been that way, which is much later. But I feel like, there were manuals that were much more like, like, hey, learn the game by going through, pages 7 through 15 of the manual, and they would
Right.
just kind of tell you that, when you open the manual. I really appreciate the manual in this game because it is, I don't know, it's like 30 pages, small pages though. These aren't like 30. It's like a half of a 8.5 by 11 page is a page. It's small. It's not seeking pages to generate weight, as in our interview with Bill Roper many years ago, of like, give you 100-page manual and therefore the box will be heavy and feel like a good investment.
And we're throwing an empty notepad
and a blank notepad. I still have that in this drawer right beneath me. Yep, there it is.
Wow, call back to an interview.
Yeah,
good
I thought of that. I thought about that today. So the other thing I want to point is, we're going to get to the introduction of the game, but part of the introduction of the game is, the books drop into the world.
Yeah.
In the world of the game, and it says you sit down beneath the tree and read the manual, the history they call it, and then it says no, really read the history. It's like so anyway, what was your experience of reading the manual?
I mean, it's good old fashioned video game fantasy.
Yeah.
Lore.
Yeah.
In context, with one big exception, which is I think another topic we want to talk about when it comes to its approach to kind of the philosophical and spiritual side of the game, which is, I know, probably weird for people who don't know this game to hear. But no, I enjoyed it, and the topic I mentioned earlier that we forgot in pre-show to mention is what you just mentioned there, is just sort of the meta context for the opening of the game and reading the manual, is this concept that you are the player in the modern world, and then all this adventure happens from that perspective. You enter this world, but it gives, like you said, it gives you the books and you're reading them in as yourself, and that's also just a mind-blowing concept. So I thought it was, it gives you a good sense of the world, it gives you a good sense of the history. I actually really appreciated a refresher on 1, 2, and 3 as well. It covers,
it does,
like you said, it
talk
covers
about
the
that.
dark, the triad of evil or something.
The triad of evil.
Yeah, that you've defeated. And so it sets up 4 really nicely, because it gives you a sense of the state of Britannia, and the world. Wait, no, Scory. Britannia's
Sosaria.
Yeah.
Britannia is
Britannia's the
kingdom of
the kingdom,
Lord British. Yeah.
The main city or region. Yeah. So anyway, it gives you a sense of where you're starting, which I think it will also segue to another topic that we have as far as like your goals, for an RPG. And but what about yours? Like,
I mean, one of the
things, manuals.
I normally don't, but I actually think that this one is pretty well written, and I want to pick. Say, I'm gonna use light as an example, because it's like one of the first spells in theory you would learn, and this is from the sort of sort of quick manual. This is not actually from the history. There's some other stuff I'll read later from the history, but it really sort of sets the tone and puts you in the mindset of being in the world. So I'll read
Yeah.
this thing, I think, in its entirety, because it is both mechanical, but the mechanics are explained in the context of, what you would be learning as a spellcaster. So light. The enchantment of light is a trivial one, often the very first spell acquired by the budding sorcerer. It requires but a pinch of sulphurous ash, which is applied to the end of a staff and gently blown upon until it begins to flow with a soft yellow light. The spellcaster must concentrate briefly on the image of a candle and expend a slight amount of energy to start the magical glow. From then on, it will burn softly until the reagent is consumed, lighting the underground passages where the thaumaturge treads. There are two principal advantages to the use of light spells in place of ordinary torches. They are unaffected by all but magical winds or breezes, and they do not smoke and cause one's eyes to smart. Many a warrior has suffered grievously because his eyes were shut by the sting of a wealth of tears. There is some stuff in there that is mechanical. The wind, the magical winds, the sulphurous ash. But you are not going to see a character, hold up their staff, blow upon it, and concentrate on a candle. Like,
in your mind, you will.
Yes, but now having read this, in your mind, you will, right? You'll see the 10 pixel high icon of your party and think, oh, this is what I'm doing now, when you cast this spell. And so
this is an era where you were filling in
all
a lot of blanks.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, a critical element of playing these older games is a memory. And to be honest, we talked about most recently I would bring up Final Fantasy VI as a good example too, right? Of, you're dealing with pixels, but there's still a lot of emotion coming at you because you are bringing a lot to the table yourself,
right,
about what you're interpreting is happening.
Yeah. I want to compare this with Ultima 1's manual for the spells. They didn't have a light spell. I want to compare it just to give you a sense of how far it came. So here's Magic Missile, which has which I should have probably picked that one. I didn't realize there wasn't a light spell in Ultima 1. So Magic Missile, the ability to strike a foe with a blast of magical force. The more skilled and well-equipped the spellcaster, the greater the damage inflicted by the blast. It lacks all of that, context that the other one brings, and really kind of puts you in the mind of I'm going to sit down and role play here on this, CRPG, which I think is really something. I mean, if you don't have the graphics to dazzle with, you don't necessarily need them, and that's this is a good example of how you can sort of prime the player to sort of think about what's happening when they take actions in the game. And it's all over the game. I mean,
the whole manual is that way. I think even the history that they describe, and the spiritual side that we'll talk about in a second. But to your point, because we are both playing some Dwarf Fortress, and on the stream I had shown, I had turned on the ASCII version of the game to just show people, for those who didn't know, or wanted to be reminded, or didn't want to be reminded of what it looked like. But there's a lot of information that's been given to you in such a simple graphical look. And in this game, there's the manual and things like that to fill in the blanks for you, and so you can embellish in your mind this. I think it's well put that it's sort of like they're trying to get you to role play the way you do when you play D&D or whatever. But the meaning, even when they describe the regions, the reason I'll bring this up, and I don't have it up right now, but they have a section where they talk about the geography, and they describe each version. And to your point, they have the embellishment, but they also have some mechanical things. And so they talk about swamps and how swamps can actually potentially poison you, which will be a tease to a topic I'm going to talk about later for my early moments, literally the first few minutes of the game for me. And so now
that actually also happened to me. We did not talk about that in pre-show.
Funny. Okay.
In a different location, but yeah.
Okay. So that's,
sure.
But my
Yeah,
point now is that
let me read that.
okay, yeah, go ahead and read that.
Let me see if I can find exact, because so it's basically in the geography thing. Yeah, here it's uh, let's see here. It starts here. Lost Hope Bay lies to the north of here. So this whole chapter, I mean, it's a little section. It's like 4 pages about the geography. Is all kind of in relation to Lord British's castle and the town of Britain. And so now I'm several paragraphs in. So through this, it's very. I think Morrowind takes something from this because it's like,
Oh my gosh, I had forgotten. The Elder Scrolls
yeah,
owes
so much.
everything to the Ultimate games
Yeah,
now that I'm
yeah,
remembering this stuff. Even the character creation stuff to
yeah,
some degree.
yeah, to some
Um,
degree. Anyway, so Lost Hope Bay lies to the north of here, with the sturdy town of Minok perched on its shore. Minok is home to some of the finest craftsmen in the realm. The tinkers of Minok are known far and wide for their skill. A tired traveler will also find a refreshing place to rest at the Wayfarer's Inn. The northeastern tip of Britannia is rather wild. The treacherous marshes, with their noxious vapors that poison the unwary explorer, are home to swarms of large insects and all manner of vile beasts. So, and then
yeah.
later they actually also talk about like what it means sort of mechanically to be in these kind of poisonous areas, but they sort of give you the sense of like, here's all the places around here that you can see on your cloth map.
Yeah.
And yeah, anyway.
Well, and my closing point to that was really just the graphical representation of swamps
Mm,
on the maps, both even a town map and the world map. It's the same, I believe. Now I have imposed upon that an importance and a fear
mm,
that I didn't have before, and it is literally 4 pixels,
right.
6 pixels, I guess, really, maybe,
Yeah.
to show one of the graphics, and then they just spread that around that region. You're like, okay, that is a swamp, and so now I really think hard about going through those, and what the repercussions are, and it's so simple, but because of all of the stuff around it and because of the experiences I've had in it, not knowing what it looked like before, because the manual doesn't tell you what the graphic looks like. They
Right.
just tell you it exists. You kind of have to discover what the swamp looks like on the actual map in the game yourself.
Yeah.
Um, before and then kind of like learning the hard way. But
Yeah, in my case too. Anyway, so we're both reading this, before we start a new game. I guess I guess maybe I'll throw in the philosophical quest here, even though I was going to do it later, just because um, it's kind of it's not it doesn't really tell you, and this is an important thing. Like this history is really important. That's why they reinforce in the opening of the game, like, no, really read it. And if you are going to try to play along, no, really read it. I just want to, like, you can listen to us, but we're going to miss stuff that you might want to know from that. There's a bestiary and things like that, but the actual overall quest of the game is discussed in there, but they don't even say this is the quest of the game.
no.
They just kind of, I should look and see what the section is called, because I don't want to miss it. But there's kind of a this I'm not used to this interface here. It's past the magical arts. It's past combat. Here we go. It is in the chapter called Modern Civilization and Our Universe. Okay. I'm just going to pick a couple of quotes, but the tenor of this whole couple of pages is kind of around the same thing. There's an early part that goes, "Is there not a higher calling?" And then later it says, "If one accepts that the next area of human growth should not be fostered through aggressive territorial expansion, then a possible answer emerges. We must turn inward. Is living a life of virtue an essential element of civilization, or can society survive the test of time without such principles?" Um, and then later it'll also say, "We must become living examples of our beliefs." And the subtitle of this game is The Quest of the Avatar. And, broadly speaking, this is the quest of the Avatar,
Hmm.
and they don't say to you in a direct way, okay, you're going to go out and do all this sort of questing to become the Avatar, and you're going to answer these questions. They do it in this kind of flowery, philosophical sounding language, written by Kyle the Younger. They even have a fictional character who wrote all of this stuff. They kind of set this against the triad of evil as well, so it reinforces the history of the world.
That's what I wanted to say too. Yeah, that I had forgot. Well, I hadn't played one or two, so I didn't remember that part. But the fact that there's such a difference between the first three, who have very clear, well, at least my perception is that they have more of a clear goal, in that there's a villain to vanquish, or in Exodus's case,
they
it's
do,
sort of a villain, but it's what I mean. It's much more black, no pun intended, black and white. And in this one, and I remember this for talking to friends who love this game and played it and have fond memories of it, and described to me generally what you do in the quest, like yourself, Reed, who we mentioned on the podcast a lot, who will listen to this in 2030.
Hi, Reed, in 2030.
Hi, Reed, in 2030. He'll be so excited. Talked about sort of the significance of this quest, and why this is not necessarily a fork in the road, but I think that 4 was when people were like more like, what is this series? Like, oh, they're actually doing some pretty different things. Because don't forget, we've talked about, in under the context of Eye of the Beholder, we talked about the Gold Box games and Pool of Radiance specifically, which Kaon played on the NES,
right,
much to his chagrin, I'm sure. And those are much more traditional D&D type, experiences. And I just feel like Ultima always, at least this is my own perception, putting the pieces together by talking through things with people, Ultima has always been this sort of outlier in many ways, not just in character creation, but just in, the philosophical reason they're making the game. And even the meta experience was pretty consistent. I feel like every game starts with you in your world, our world, and then you go to their world. Yeah. And then
and that was also true of, yeah. That was also true of some of there were a couple of offshoot games as well that were, I forget what they're called, but they were also about the Avatar, and they were to be able to do it in different settings, but take the same engine. Warren Spector was with the company at that point. So this was the 6 engine, or maybe the 7 engine. And I think it was called Ultimate Adventures. Yeah, so Ultimate Adventures. And one was the Savage Empire. So it was sort of a Lost World dinosaur thing. And the other was Martian Dreams, which was a like 1892 World's Fair. I've also played that one. I've never finished Savage Empire, but I think I have finished Martian Dreams. And I'd like to play it again. Honestly, it's so good. And it's very, like, you would dig it. It's very Barsoom, and all that is very, very influenced by all of that. In the same way Outcast is that we talked about.
And are you saying that they're RPGs like this is?
They are, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, they're similar. They're similar to this. Obviously they have different weapons and things like that, because sure. In 1892 you have rifles and things like that, and ultimately I think you get sort of laser pistols and things like that. And then in Savage Empire, I think it's more, I think there are lost like tribes as well, so you have more tribal types, probably like spears and things like that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
kind of pulp.
Very, very pulpy. Yeah, they're both very pulpy. And Warren Spector is very involved in those in particular.
The other touchstone that we did maybe do a bonus episode on, but when we played Fallout, right? Didn't we go back and play some Wasteland?
Oh, some Wasteland. We definitely talked about it. I don't remember if we played it.
I know I did, but maybe I did it just to refresh my memory. I didn't play very far, but that's another one that I was playing in this same era when, in the 80s. I don't think it was the same year, but it was around that same time. Also a daunting game. Wasteland I did not finish, but it's just, that's to your point, a different context and setting, but a similar
a similar vibe.
presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wasteland. Yeah, well, we don't need to get it. It is a few years later than this, but it's in the ballpark. I played it my first year of college, but it wasn't new when we played it. Played it with a couple of buddies, and didn't finish it. So and I don't think I'll ever finish that game. But no, we did play some of it. I remember playing some of it.
I know
when we
I
talked
know I
about it.
remember playing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So we might have done a bonus on it. That's a long time ago. Did I mention it's almost 10 years here? Anyway, so let's dive into character creation, which is part of this opening series of screens, just to set the scene, and then you can kind of take us through what it feels like to pick your character. You've read the book in the setting with the tree, and then you kind of go over this hill, and they show a Ren fair below, and you go. One of the things you picked up in addition to the books is a amulet on a necklace, which is the Ankh, which is tied to this series a lot. And they let you in because you've got the Ankh, and you kind of get pulled in to well, they say a gypsy. What do they call it? A gypsy caravan, and there's basically a woman in a wagon that you talk to. Pick it up from there.
yeah, I mean, I think the important thing to think about and know for the character creation is what you were just saying, the lead in, and I was alluding to this earlier, the jump from 3 to 4. I remember seeing the screenshots, or maybe I was in Egghead software looking at the back of the box, and of course they're going to show the best looking stuff, and the opening of the game is pretty, for the time, very beautiful, beautifully rendered, greens and yellows. You see this hillside. In fact, the very first shot where you find the items from the, that essentially come in through a moon gate, basically,
Yeah,
I think, and it's
it is.
kind of
Yeah.
in a Stonehenge kind of area, but I think it's 8, right, for the virtues probably.
Yeah.
But there's a willow tree on that first screen that's really beautiful for that time. And
9 colors, Tim. 9.
9, I know. I think I've told the story about when my dad and I converted that 6300 to a 16 color machine, and we actually had to electrical tape the connections together to get the video card to work right.
Wow.
So that's a funny story for both of us. But anyway, so yeah, so you're seeing these. So, but the cool thing about it is, they're not just presenting you with, and this is kind of what made me think of the Elder Scrolls a little bit, and I'm being a little unfair, but you're presented with these screens in this setting, and like you said, the Ren Fair and the wagon, from the context of you being yourself today, like in your neighborhood.
Right.
And then you walk over this hill, and
Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court style.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're not at a UI screen. You're not playing an RPG. You're not choosing what, species you're going to be or what class you're going to be. You have this moment happen with this magical moment with these items appearing, and then you walk over the hill and you're like at a Ren fair. They literally call it a Ren fair, and they talk about the performers, and then you're in this hut, and she starts asking you, or in this wagon, and she starts asking you questions, like deep questions about things, and then starts doing your cards, and she puts cards out, and I wrote, one of the notes I wrote down was difficult choices, which we talk a lot about in our day-to-day work, and Harley Baldwin is one of her favorite phrases. Wonderful designer that we work with, and she, she puts out 2 cards that are kind of not necessarily opposing, but they're decisions you have to make, and they both, you can't choose both. You have to pick one, and then there's a, sort of a flow chart, if you will, that this is going through as you're making decisions. So it's, again, not a UI where
not a flow chart, a tournament.
A tournament. Okay, fair. Yes.
Right, because you're basically, so what you're being asked is a series of dilemmas which pit one of the virtues in this system against another, right?
Yeah.
And there are 7 pairings, but basically the victor of each pairing of the first 4 survives to then be paired off in the other with the other one. It's
It's
clearly
March Madness.
it is literally a tournament bracket.
It's a
Right
bracket,
there on
right?
screen. But here's one thing
A bracket of virtues,
a bracket of
which
virtues.
is literally what's happening.
Yeah.
She's making you make hard choices. Yeah.
Yeah, and they are really hard choices. Like, well, you're defending the castle. You've been told to hold the line. Somebody has gone to try to escape. Do you, I don't remember which virtues this involves, but like, are you just, and you let the guy who's trying to escape, who's kind of who's been injured, do you let him, basically get killed, because that would be just,
because your job is to
because I'm supposed to be doing this, or are you compassionate, or and go and try to lend him aid? Might not be compassion. I'm like I said, I didn't write any of these down because I was kind of in it, but those are the sorts of things you're being asked to do, and as a result, in the end, you've picked what in theory is your most important virtue.
Right, as you've narrowed them down, yeah.
As you've narrowed them down,
and as you get closer, like the bracket, of course, the bracket example is better. You'd come up with that versus myself. That, of course, because that is the case, you're going to see you're narrowing it down. You're going to see some of them multiple times until you come down, right? So,
right
toward the end, you're starting to get the same ones to then pit them against the remaining ones, etc.
Yeah, it's literally a tournament. But one of the things that's interesting, so you just played through this part once, right?
I wanted to commit to the bit, so I just played once and I answered all the questions honestly, and I didn't look up which ending virtue was going to get me what class,
right,
or job, whatever they call it,
profession,
profession, so I just took what I got.
Okay, I also did that, and I was like, oh, I definitely don't want that one. And part of that is meta knowledge of Ultima. I, of course,
what did you get?
I got the Bard.
Are you serious? Naturally?
I got the Bard naturally. I didn't know. I certainly
God.
didn't remember. So I got the Bard, and I was laughing, of course, because I knew what you would say to that.
That's what, yeah. That's what Brett plays.
That's normally what I play when I play
most
D&D.
of the time.
RPGs, computer RPGs. Anyway, so I got the Bard and I was just laughing, but I don't want to be the Bard because one of the series characters who shows up starting in 4 and going on forward into 6 and 7, etc., is, and he's mentioned, I think, in the history, is Iolo the Bard.
Yeah, he's already in my party.
Right. Yeah, he's in mine too now. And there's a ranger who shows up, whose name is Shamino. There's in multiple games, and there's a paladin, I think, whose name is Dupre. And these characters also appear, by the way. They might not, the names are usually slightly different to make them fit. They actually also appear in those Ultimate Adventures as well.
Oh, fun!
Which is fun for people like the main series. Anyway, so those are like characters.
So you're saying you didn't want to.
I didn't want to be the Bard because I didn't want to, because you won't get Iolo in your party if you're the Bard.
So interesting.
Your party will be ultimately 8 characters.
Yeah.
And you will be the only one. There will be one of each of the professions.
Yeah, right.
So I didn't want to take up the slot that Iolo would have because I've adventured many hours with Iolo, and I don't want to miss out on having Iolo, even though in this game he doesn't have anywhere near the depth that he has in 6 and 7.
Okay, so that's an interesting reason. Then I didn't anticipate that being the reason that you didn't want to play a Bard. Yeah.
So I did then. I was looking at the professions, and in the manual it sort of describes like their magical ability and things like that. And I was like, you know what? I'd like to play a druid. And that meant I had to replay the beginning several times because I was like, well, what is the druid? And finally I was like, oh, the druid is justice. So I got on the 3rd try. I also ended up with the tinker at one point. I was like, I don't want to be the tinker. the winning virtue is associated, your virtue is associated with your starting class. So you don't even know going into this.
Right. That's another mind blower. Yeah.
Yeah, where it's like I had these things, and it's like it's supposed to truly reflect your character. Your own, like, as a player character, not your in-game character. And so, like your actual beliefs. And the other thing that was interesting is I expected to get the same dilemmas, and I didn't.
Oh, that's interesting.
So the dilemmas are randomized. I got different pairings of different things. I mean, there's not an infinite number of these, obviously, it's innumerable, but like, why would you do more than than just a particular order? But they did. Like, they, for some reason, decided that was the thing.
Replayability, maybe something.
Well, I don't. It is weird. I guess if you get a different dilemma, you might look at some of the situations differently, because they're very descriptive of, like, well, your lord has told you, to evict somebody. That actually that's unfair. So you can be honest, and say, that he's doing this wrongly, or you can be honorable and be true to, the oath you've made to your lord, right? And it's like, well, under those situations, like, am I going to side with the landlord? Probably not, right? Versus, how honor might be presented in some other thing, right? So
yeah, right.
It definitely colors how you might make those choices. So that might be part of it as well. But I think, it is one of those things, and this character creation method repeats. I haven't played 5, but it's in 6 for sure. I don't remember about 7. Probably in 7, but I don't remember. So
I think and then eventually I thought that it was going to be in this one, that it was presented in this one, but I guess it's later, because I remember it kind of became an infamous diagram. But they do have a Venn diagram that's part of the series that's 3 circles.
That's,
I think,
in the manual. This in the history. In the manual. Yeah, it's at the end of the history. In the afterword, it says, gaze upon the device portrayed on the facing page of this tome. Learn it well, for when thou dost gaze upon it again, then shall thy life's quest be revealed.
Okay. All right. So I guess I didn't see that, or I didn't find the manuals that you found. I found some online.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not in that one. Okay. Or I just didn't get that far. But
it's basically the back cover. But yeah, if it's
okay.
It's yeah. Anyway, it's the last page.
But anyway, it shows all the virtues kind of and how they're interrelated.
It does not show that. This is the diagram, but that's information isn't in it. It's just the abstraction, right?
Oh, okay. I did see that then. I did see that.
Yeah. It's
symbol.
It's just the symbol. It's not the symbol with the information in it.
Well, later, I don't know if it's in the later versions.
Later games, I believe they actually
put all the virtues on there, and then they put the sub virtues, and then in the center of it's spirituality, and it's just a very interesting. It's very, I don't know. There's a lot of religious stuff going on, but it's also pulled from different cultures, and then there's, like you said earlier, the philosophical side, which I'm sure you'll get to more of, maybe, or maybe you're done, I don't know. But
not tonight, but maybe in future.
Not tonight, but we'll keep talking about it, because again, as you're probably listening to us talk about the opening of the game and choosing your character and everything, there's still like, what are you doing? Like, what are we doing here? So you pick your character. So I ended up with Tinkerer through my natural course of questioning, which I believe the last virtue, you boil it down to, is sacrifice.
Right.
So that was my chosen route through all the questioning.
That was my second route, and I was like, I mean, at that point, I had already decided I wanted to be a druid, so I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to do this, but it was the second thing I ended up with.
Yeah,
so we would have ended up with the same type.
Yeah, we could
if
have.
I had, exactly. And I'm glad we didn't, because it actually, we've kind of actually funneled into a common experience now, I think, but we'll vary, I'm sure, past this, because
yeah. So and Tinkerer sort of feels like kind of dwarven kind of they're fixing and making things, and I
Yeah.
have a mace, and it's called tinker, which isn't the greatest name for a profession, for a class. It's not that glamorous, I guess, like a paladin or something, but it feels like they talk about that group being kind of stout, and they don't have different species in the game, I don't think.
No, no.
As far as like the players are all humans, but anyway, so yeah, I'm a tinker, which meant, so then what happens next? You teleport? No, I think the game just starts.
The game just starts at that point. You
Yeah,
just arrive
you just
a couple
arrive.
squares away from your starting town. So the
Yeah,
starting towns are also associated with um,
each of
uh,
the professions.
each of the professions, but also each of the virtues, right? So
Right.
that is each town
It's
has a
yeah.
virtue, each class is associated with a town, and so that's why the class is associated with a virtue, right? Is that
Yeah. It's
that
a very it's I don't this not the best word. I can't think of a better word for it, but it's a very symmetrical game, if
yeah,
you know what I mean.
yeah, yeah.
Like the 8 virtues, the 8 towns, the 8 professions, the questions, the shrines, the mantras, it's just like the runes, the Ankh, eventually I think has kind of, obviously 8 section. Yeah, so yeah,
Well, yeah,
it's
it's a th- there, as you mentioned earlier, it's pulling from different spiritualities. I mean, the Eightfold Path is a Buddhist concept.
Oh, I didn't know that. No, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is not these virtues, to be clear, but that is a central, it's a really important part of Buddhism. Um, that leads to overcoming suffering if you follow the Eightfold Path. So it's like it is clearly drawing on,
Mhm.
you know, a young person. I mean, we haven't even really talked about Richard Garriott, and maybe we should put that on the list for next week. Who is the designer of these games, and who is Lord British, and uh, yeah, I mean, he would have been in his early 20s, at the time of this game, 20, maybe mid 20s. And his first game was Akalabeth or something like that, which was a forerunner to Ultima, and then he got into the Ultima games shortly thereafter. So Akalabeth is like 1980, maybe 1979. I'd have to look that up. I also have it in GOG because it was a whole package to get all the Ultimas and that. Um, but you can imagine that being a time in somebody's life where they are exploring these other options, and certainly um, in the 80s in the U.S. culturally, we were going very um, materialist. And it could be a very reaction, especially for a creative person, to be like, well, what are their other options to that?
Mhm.
What are the
Yeah.
more spiritual options to that? I don't know anything about Richard Garriott, but it's clear from his work, and that's one thing that I can appreciate about some of these earlier games that are made by fewer people. That strong authorial voice of somebody who's just exploring things, and again, I don't really, you know it's not my favorite thing to play, but I don't really, I wouldn't, badmouth him about Ultima 2 because he was a kid, you know, he was,
Yeah.
he was less than half my age,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
so
So today, even today, I just was thinking about this and I forgot to mention it earlier, but even today, now the word avatar is, is
again,
a
uh, comes from Eastern tradition,
yeah, right. And well, I mean,
Hinduism, I believe.
right. And just as a general term for that, whatever, chosen one or what have you, right? I mean, even I think Christ is called an avatar sometimes, maybe.
If so, it's more of a modern thing, but yeah,
Well, that's
maybe.
what I mean. Like
Yeah.
it's become, for better or for worse, it's become a bit of a term that's used to represent an individual that is sort of, a chosen one. So to your point, in a modernized way, it's overused. But we use video games use the word avatar a lot still today to represent the player's character that is without identity, a fictional identity, right? You're just being this avatar.
Right.
Even from a user interface perspective, oftentimes games will call that entity an avatar.
Right. Well, and that's because it is, and I did just look it up because it does come from Hinduism. In Hinduism, and I should have remembered this because I've read like the Ramayana and stuff. In Hinduism, it is an avatar refers to a deity's manifestation on Earth.
Yeah, that's why Christ is sometimes described.
Yeah. Exactly, right. So, and that is sort of the parallel that is drawn with the video game. Is the avatar is you're the god in this situation. You're the player. The player's manifestation. I think we may have a god complex problem amongst players. We may play into that a little bit too much, but that's
well, you're controlling this character. I mean, it's an interactive medium. I mean, this game is working on so many levels, meta wise. It's an interactive medium. He knows it. He's leaning into it, breaking the fourth wall, etc.
Right. But my point would be more like an avatar typically has a philosophical and a sort of virtuous, or I guess vicious sort of incarnation of a god's sort of philosophy, right? Which is definitely present here in this game, but a stretch, I think, in most games in which we would say there's an avatar.
Well, that's my point.
Or in the movie Avatar, for that matter.
It's been abstracted, though. My point is, and I'm wondering if Ultima was partially responsible that it's been abstracted to be kind of an, for lack of a better way to describe it, an interface term.
Right.
And I don't remember that. I don't know. I don't want to give it too much credit, but I feel like
I wouldn't be surprised to
Ultima has a lot to do with the first one to kind of use that term to describe the player and the player's character.
We should have asked Ed Freeze; he would know.
That's true. He would have. He would have laid down the law on that.
Well, we're at an hour and almost 20 minutes.
Oh boy, yeah.
And we haven't even gotten into any stories. So let's do a little story of how the game began for us, because you've alluded to the swamps, and and now you're terror of the swamps. And it's funny because I learned the same lesson you did, and I didn't know that going into that. We were talking in pre-show, and I was like, "Oh, I think the same thing happened to you as happened to me." So we can actually talk about a couple things quickly, and then I guess we'll just push the email to next week.
Okay. Well, so you want me to go first?
Yeah. Go ahead with your.
So Tinkerers start in the town of Minok.
Yep.
Now, when I started in the town,
they're eating the power cables.
Oh boy! Wow.
Yeah. Good. Yep.
You made that reference, not me. That's a strange day. And so, kind of intellectually, as soon as you start in town, I saw this graphic in the town, and I was like, I read in the manual about swamps, and I'm looking at this graphic and I'm like, that looks like a swamp graphic. and I'm literally in the first town. I'm talking to people. I'm trying, and it's actually a section of the town where it's kind of a little narrow. So it's even hard to get by this graphic that I'm looking at without touching it. And I'm like, it can't be a swamp. So I walk right through it, instantly poisoned. every time you make a step after you're poisoned, you lose health. And I'm like, I'm alone. I have no healer. I probably had money. I didn't think there must have been a healer in town.
There often are. I don't know if there's one.
I don't remember, but I didn't think of it, or I didn't find them. And I'm walking around in the sort of like, the back alleys of this town as a tinkerer by myself, losing health with every step, and I die. I didn't even leave the town.
Mine was very similar. Although it took me longer, but yeah,
that's a swamp. I was right. That graph. So to their credit, those 6 pixels, did deliver the message that they needed to. I just didn't know what to do about it, and then I'll let you go now, but when you die, you do respawn.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we can
Yeah.
talk about that maybe later,
Yeah,
or
we'll go right into it on the other side of this. But yeah, I basically had a similar experience. I started in the town of Yew, YEW,
right,
like
right.
the wood. And I actually went in there and did a bunch of stuff. I was actually working towards my first I got my first mantra, and I was doing the quest there. I don't want to tell you how to do it, but and I was like, "Oh, well, they gave me directions in town, and I think what they mean is I have to leave town to go find the shrine."
Hmm.
And in a lot of cases, you have sort of a series of steps to go and meditate on this mantra that you've learned, and sort of acquire another step in the way. We'll talk about all of those things later, quests and all of that. But I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to go and do that. But the town of Yew is in a forest. And it's described as such and it's like the deep dark forest or something, where
Oh,
it's like it's easy to get lost.
I can't wait to talk about the fog of war in this game.
Oh yeah, it's wild. So I'm like, well, I'll go in the direction it said, but like soon I'm running into enemies and I'm fighting,
Oh yeah.
and I want to go back, and I'm like, uh-oh. I didn't draw a map, and I don't know how to get back. And so like I'm like sort of zigzagging back and forth across the map trying to
Oh,
find the town
you're
again.
doing the infinite spiral.
I was trying to find it. Eventually I find it again. I go in and I find the healer and I get healed up. I'm like, okay, all right, let me do that again. Now I sort of have a better idea. I still didn't make a map because idiot. But I went to what I thought might be the shrine, and I think it was actually a circle of stones. But I
It
went up
is.
near it, and it had swamp around it. I stepped into the
Oh.
swamp to get to the circle, and I got poisoned, and I could not make it back to the town to get cured of poison in time.
Yeah.
So I died on the way back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I believe one of the spells you'll get will cure the poison.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I
But
hope.
I don't have a spell. I don't have a spellcaster. I
I
mean, in
did
theory, I'm a
find.
spellcaster, right? I don't have any ingredients. We'll talk about all that again, in
Yeah.
another episode.
I think I did find kind of a workaround that will probably work most of the time if that happens again. But
Anyway, so what? So what happens after you die?
so apparently, Lord British brings you back to life.
Yeah,
And I don't know if this happens for the whole, like, any time in the game for the rest of the game or not. Maybe it
I
does,
think
but
so. But you lose goals,
he said something about you came back with most of your stuff or
right?
something,
Yeah, yeah.
But I looked at my inventory and it looked like and maybe this is just because it's early in the game, but I think I had everything in this case. So maybe they guarded against early deaths by not being so punishing. But yeah, so I ended up in Britannia. I actually have no idea where Minok is, so I have not been back. But through that process, I was able to make progress from Britannia. But it was just funny because I died. I wanted to see what would happen. Oh, and there's actually some text. It says, like, it goes dark. You hear voices. It kind of the text alludes to. There's this little window, by the way, on the lower right of the screen that is scrolling text and that's basically where you're getting all this information, because obviously the graphical portion doesn't tell you anything other than
Yeah.
your character's representation. So it was giving me the impression I should not restart, and so I wanted to see what would happen. And then you show up in the throne room, and Lord British is there, and he's like, "Hey, I've been waiting for you, and I wanted to help you out, and here's your resurrection, and good luck." So, and I just kept playing. I didn't reload or anything.
Yeah, I didn't either. I had a save, but I didn't quit out or anything like that. So, well, we will.
We have a lot more.
We have so
Talk
much
about.
more, even just from what we've played, which in our cases is not very much. And I think they kind of expect you to die pretty early, because it's a
Yeah.
it's a pretty, and like obviously if you've played it before, you might be better off. But I think because there are a couple things. One is because you are starting in a town that you can't recruit from, it's just going to be you at the
Oh,
beginning of
good
the
point.
game,
That's a good point. I
right?
didn't think about it. Yeah.
So you are very squishy at that point. and it's only going to take one misstep, into apparently poison puddles for us, to have that happen. I almost died just in combat as well.
Yeah.
I was getting really low, and I was like still figuring out the interface and like where the information was, and I was like, oh no, I think I'm in danger here. I better start running from fights and things like that to try to get away, so that I can get back and hopefully heal. Like I don't remember if there's an inn in you. I don't think so. So I'm like, what am I going to do? So it's kind of
You can
terrifying.
try camping too.
That's right. You can. Excuse me, Tim. It's holing up.
Holy, yeah, we didn't cover that, but next
Keyboard
time,
either, but we'll do that
next
too.
time we're going to go over the commands just
Yeah.
so people understand what is happening.
What's happening, and the spells, because they work the same way. All right. Well, let's call it there. Unless there's anything else you want to touch on about dying, we got to get right almost an hour and a half. Okay, we're going to continue because this game is open world. It is difficult to tell you what we're going to do next or how far we're going to play. Or it's difficult for us to even know. So we're just going to play this game as we play it. In a lot of cases we do this where it's like we actually can't really plan out how this game is going to play out. And I don't want to rob us of any of the sort of joy of discovery that this game is really about. So that's just
collecting your party, which is so funny because some of these concepts are so prevalent today still,
right?
And the concept that they might get pissed at you and leave your party if you do
right, yeah.
things,
if you don't follow the
collecting your party is like if anyone is fool enough to play along with us, it's like
I'd encourage you. It's
I would love for people to write in and share stories if you do start playing it, so we can compare your stories to our stories. But yeah, I think the early game is very much about so progress is, how many people have you had join, and maybe how many shrines have you
visited? Yeah. And then ultimately it'll be about the path, the trying to answer the question of what is the good life. But anyway, we'll get back to that all in the future. We did have email this week. We read one of them, sent to devgameclub@gmail.com up at the top. We also love to get your reviews. You can follow our Benamanjaro quests of the last few weeks. If you want to go back and listen to those episodes, we'd love to get them. It's the only way we reach new listeners. That and word of mouth. So spread it around. We're on the web at devgameclub.com, and my co-host Twitch is at twitch.tv/
Tim Longo Jr. with the JR at the end.
Where, as we know, we are, I forget the name of it's like Brass Martyr or something like that. Your town?
Yeah, I don't remember the new one. Yeah, I'll have to, we might need to name it. Community may need to name it.
Oh, okay.
I did start an inn or an inn. So, or no, a pub or whatever. So
yeah, whatever. Yeah.
I'm gonna ask the community to name that.
Yeah, you got to start naming that stuff, man.
Yeah.
I look forward to it. I will try to drop by and check that out. But that will be the evening that this comes out. We also have a fan-run Discord. You've heard quite a bit about that this episode. There is a link to that in the show notes. Our intro and outro music was written and performed by Kirk Hamilton, commissioned by friend of the cast Aaron Evers, and our logo, Discord. We have a merch store there. Nobody makes any money on that, by the way. It's just for fun. All by Mark Garcia. Have fun stack ranking the 8 virtues this week, and good night.
Good night.